All right, so last week I mentioned I was going to be talking about the volume this week. I got a couple of things to say about this. So the volume, if you're not familiar with it, is this gigantic wraparound screen kind of setup that they're using in movies now. It kind of made its debut on The Mandalorian, mainly. And essentially what it is instead of using like a green screen or something like that, and then painting your background on it in post, what you can do instead is you can use Unreal Engine or some kind of 3D rendering software, the exact same stuff they use for video games, and build yourself this 3D world that your characters are going to be in. And then this way, when you project that onto the screen, you're actually just filming it. So you've got your camera in the real world, and then you have your digital camera mapped to your real camera, so that when you move your real camera, the digital camera moves in the same way. So if you move, like, you're on set, you're actively filming your actors, and the background is visible behind them on set. You turn your camera this way, the whole background on the screen moves. This is great because it means, like, think about the Mandalorian, right? His armor is chrome. You're gonna get the reflections, you're gonna get all of the lighting, and you'd have to do all that in post, and it's so much. This way, it's actually visibly behind him. He's got the reflections on there, the lighting's all accurate. Genuinely, the volume was one of the greatest advancements we've made in filmmaking in a very long time, and it's incredible, and I love it, and it's awesome. But it does come with its drawbacks. Like every advancement that there's ever been in filmmaking, it changes the way we do things, right? As cameras improved, as we went to digital, it just changes all of these things. And it's not necessarily bad. I don't want to give that impression. But it can lead to some bad habits that certainly adjust what we consider to be right and wrong. So there are two main criticisms I'm going to lodge against the volume right now. The first one is framing. If you were to watch just a trailer from a movie in the Percy Jackson. I was just talking about this like a month ago because the new Percy Jackson trailer came out. I'm not a Percy Jackson guy, but I saw the trailer and I thought it looked terrible. Visually, it looked terrible. And so I was describing to my dad actually like the issue with the use of the volume, the heavy CGI, and the framing of this trailer. And I showed him back to back the trailer from the 2000s or 2010s or whatever Percy Jackson movie that I grew up with, and this new trailer. And I kept pointing out to him every time that the character was centered in the screen as opposed to being on one of the thirds, which technically, this is a YouTube video, this is different, but usually you want to follow the rule of thirds. Not always, but usually. And centering your character is more personal. It's like if you want to do like this in intense moment, then you might center it, but it's kind of rare. It has its use, but it's rare. And every single shot of this new Percy Jackson trailer, the subject was always centered. Every time. There might have been 2 or 3 shots in the entire trailer where the character or subject was not in the center frame. And then the older one, there were very few where it was centered. And you can tell very clearly in the new one, they're clearly using the volume for it, which is fine, but they're clearly using it. And you can tell. Think about it. If you have this kind of this crescent-shaped background that you're filming, you can kind of see, and I'm not sure I can really describe it, but I think you can see what I'm seeing. You can kind of see how it's going to be a little bit hard, even just mentally, to not center your subject in the middle of the screen and not shoot directly down that line. Maybe I'm making that up. To me, I can see myself having that problem. And in any case, you do have to account for if you move too far off center, you might run out of screen real estate. You might show the warehouse behind you, right? So you can see how this happens. And it changes the way that we're framing things, and that's not a good thing. There are ways of framing movies where they look good, and there are ways of framing movies where they look bad. Framing has an immense impact on how you perceive the characters, how you perceive what's happening, how you perceive the film. And if you throw all that out just because you have this new technology, great as it might be, you're going to run into some problems. Now, my second complaint. This is the bigger one. I kind of laugh at it because it's also kind of funny. But let me record my screen again so you can see what I'm talking about. This is essentially what the volume looks like. This one's kind of cheap. I'm using this. I'm building you a straw man right now, so I'm gonna correct myself in a minute. But look at this. Look how cheap that looks. It looks like a middle school play, right? Now let me show you what it actually is supposed to look like. Okay, here's an actual large production with they're doing this one correctly. But nevertheless, even though this is definitely way better, does it remind you of anything? Does it remind you of anything? Maybe that? Does it remind you of this at all? Original series Star Trek? Does it remind you of anything? So back in the day, on all the classic TV shows, which maybe I'm a nerd, but I like those, they had to paint the background because they didn't have the CGI, right? So if you wanted to have Captain Kirk on a different planet, you had to paint the planet behind him. And you would build this little stage, this little set, just like you would in a play. It's actually a really fascinating aspect of the industry. There's some documentaries on it. I've seen a few. I recommend watching some because it's actually really cool. But that's how we used to do things. And it was exactly the way you would do it for a play. You'd build your background, and then you would build your little set around it, and your characters would interact on that stage. And you had to leave room for them. So it was always kind of an obvious stage. Star Trek, all these old shows, all these old movies, same way. The stage was always really obvious, and you had the painted background. It was always really obvious. Everything was made out of foam. It was so obvious, but it's kind of fun, but it's obvious. It's no different with the volume. If you watch any TV show or any movie shot on the volume, as soon as you know what you're looking for, you can't unsee it. It's so blatantly obvious. It's the same thing. You've got your rendered background, you've got your stage, you've got your set, you've got your props, and it all looks really cheap and crappy, and you got to leave room for the actors, so it's really empty in the middle. There was a shot from Andor, season 2, I believe, and I want to clarify it. Andor's great. I love the show. It's one of the best pieces of Star Wars we've gotten in a while. I'm not knocking the show, but it's a good point. Where they're in the wheat field planet. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're in this planet that's basically just a big wheat field. And at one point, these stormtroopers arrest one of the guys. My mic receiver just died, so we're trying this again. The stormtroopers have this one character and under arrest in this little clearing in the wheat field, and it's wheat as far as the eye can see, except this one little clearing where they've got him. And the clearing is a circle, and everything's always a circle. If it's the volume, the stage is a circle. It's like a law of the universe, because the volume is half circle, and so the space you're working with when you build your stage is a circle, and so your stage is a circle, and your set is a circle, and everything is a circle. It's circles everywhere, right? And then you can see, it's faint, but you can see where the real wheat that they put in on the set ends, and the screen wheat begins. You can see it. It's faint, but it's there. It's so much more obvious than they think it is. And you might say, so what? And okay, fair enough. But think about what that scene might have looked like otherwise, right? You've got this guy in a clearing, and you got the stormtroopers there, and it's kind of boring. But it's supposed to be an intense moment of oh, this guy's getting taken away by the bad guys, right? I'm very pro-Empire, but anyway. But when you have them just in this open space like that, when you have your character just sitting there, there's not a whole lot you can do with your camera. There's not much you can do framing-wise to draw up emotion out of that. Whereas, what if they just put him in the wheat field? What if he's just sitting in the wheat? Well, now you get to put the camera you've got the wheat in the foreground, it's waving in the wind, we see his face kind of stressed out, and that's a cool shot. That's cool. It makes it feel kind of look claustrophobic, he's surrounded by this. It would work so well, but we don't get that because they're using the circle stage in the volume, right? So it does make a difference because it's changing the way that we're shooting things. It's changing the way that we're planning these shots, and I don't think it's changing it for the better. Maybe you disagree. I think it's worse. Why are they using this? It is in fact cheaper than having to pay for a location scout to find the right looking place for this. It's cheaper than having to fly your whole crew out to wherever that place might be. Frequently it's Iceland, right? That's a lot of money to get all of your crew, all of your gear, all of your props, everything over to a different country across an ocean. Good luck with that. So if you can just pay some rendering guys. I don't know what the job's called. Is it still CGI? I don't know. You pay them to make a little gaming world, an Unreal Engine, and you put it on a screen. That's way more cost effective. So who can blame them? But at a certain point, go outside and quite literally touch grass. Open the door, go outside, bring the camera, point the camera, turn it on. Congratulations, now it looks good. Anyway, that's my rant on the volume. All in all, I think it's pretty awesome, but I do think we're really abusing it, and I think we need to dial that back a little bit and spend some more time outside. Hope this makes sense. Hope it helps. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to talk about next week. I've got some ideas. If you have anything that you want me to cover next week, let me know in the comments. I will look into it. And yeah, happy shooting.